Welcome to the status chat for this week. The title I have picked out is CPI, ADP, CES, GDP NOW, and MND. This is episode 290. The date, 1/15/26. And before we get into this, remember, hit that QR code if you want to find these over on the YouTube. And then we can go from there. That's where it is the repository of all things Dell and status chat. So here we go. So what are we going to go today? We're just going to hit some highlights. I think I have some good ones picked out. We're just going to go fast because I know we're chilling down tonight, and I saw some snowflakery in the early morning. It was just flurrying. It was like for 5 minutes or so, and then it went away, kind of like snow does here in Tennessee. So what do you say we go ahead and look at the first thing we'll look at? BLS, United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is what we're looking at, the Consumer Price Index. We're going to look at these little charts. Here, it's going to tell you what it is. I'll leave that for you. We're going to find this, say, chart 12-month percentage change, Consumer Price Index, selected categories for December 2025. Ho, 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 not seasonally adjusted. And it says that we were right here on the major categories, 2.7. We were at food, 3.1. All right, we need to eat a little less anyway. Energy was 2.3. That's where our big win is coming from. Remember when we had a war on domestic energy, how much that made inflation go up? Although technically that wasn't inflation as much as cost of living, I think, because it wasn't printing money, but it was pretty well much government policy. All items, less food and energy. This is the core, 2.6. Both of those are looking great to me, because we were having people say, oh no, if we get a high CPI, that will mean inflation and the Democratic run Fed. Oh, by the way, did you see Herr Chairman Powell may have to answer for where all that missing money went? You know, I mean, if you can't trust him to run a budget on one building, how do we trust him for running the Federal Reserve Bank? I don't know. So here, let's go back to our internet, and we're going to look at the BLS again, the CES, or current employment statistics. I always want to say current employment situation. Okay, here we go. This gives our little graph over our 1 month. It shows our little, I hate this one because I can't poke to anything without it wanting to expand. But we see non-total farm. There it is. It wants to have a pretty wide swing, pretty well much in the positive. If we take the average where the dots are, down a little bit maybe in construction, down just a tad in manufacturing and retail trade. But overall, we're holding our own there as well. So let's go to our next one, which is the GDP. Now, we've been hearing a lot on the GDP. Looks like we're going to come in hotter than we were expecting. Now, let's see what the Atlanta Fed thinks about it. Remember, this is a tracking. This is where Bostic is from. Remember, Bostic got caught insider trading. He runs the Atlanta Fed. And of course, it was just a rut row mistake. No harm, no foul. They didn't do anything with him. Also, we have a couple other Fed people. We have Lisa Cook. She's got her issues with mortgage fraud. But here it looks like with the GDP now, the blue chip consensus says we're still going to be positive at 1%, looks like. But the Atlanta Fed is revising estimates up over 5. How about that for January? So it says, look, we're down here at this point, just a little bit below 3, but we're expecting a hot January. I'll take it. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. We'll take it. All right, so we got one more we want to look at, I think, before we get to our closing argument, so to speak. Here we are over here on USA Today. You can look at this. Keith Lang looks like an average new car cost a record of 50 grand in December. Here's why. Personally, I never like to waste money on cars. Cars don't impress me much. It don't impress many other people on average, and they're a depreciation. So when I see somebody spending a lot of money on a car, unless they're like running a Somali daycare in Minnesota, I don't expect anybody to be driving Mercedes-Benz because they cost way too much money and they depreciate, especially on luxury market. They depreciate very, very quickly. So let's look at what we got going on here. It's saying, let's see if we can roll this text down. It says car shoppers paid a record amount of 50 grand in new cars December 2025. According to Kelley Blue Book, the average December price for new cars was up 0.1% over November, which would be 49.8. We were 50 plus. Here we go. Aaron Keatling, an executive analyst for Cox Automotive. We quote them sometimes. We look into markets when we're particularly worried about Nissan and our friends here in Tennessee. And even in East Tennessee, we have VW and some other stuff. So, yeah, the whole region, Alabama, we've got stuff. Cox Automotive said in a statement that the record high average car sales price can be attributed to a rise in sticker prices, which common in December, and also a consumer preference for luxury models driving the prices higher. Now, what did I tell you about my feelings, which are not your feelings? Your feelings are your feelings. But especially in luxury automotive, I don't like to waste a lot of money because they break down just as well as a cheap car. I had a sister having trouble with her Hyundai. Get a lot of candy in a Hyundai. I considered a Hyundai before I bought my my Mazda. It's made in Birmingham, I think it is. No, Huntsville. By Toyota joint venture, and this is about as Toyota as you can get without paying a Toyota price. Mazda is not perfect, but I didn't pay but about $35,000 for it. It's holding a lot of it. Those luxury cars don't, but when we see people switching to higher prices in luxury, that to me tells me we got some consumer confidence coming on. All right, let's look at one other set of numbers that we're going to look at over here. And let's get to her. That is our 30-year mortgage fixed rates from our friends at Mortgage News Daily. I'm seeing more of my Facebook frenzies and my benchmark people use Mortgage News Daily. I don't think I found it. I just been quoting it, and it has some really good results. I like them because they're industry related. And we see that we are definitely on the downswing on mortgage rates since something wonderful happened last year. We're seeing mortgage rates go down. We're seeing gas go down, inflation go down. Yeah, I think we're seeing some beautiful stuff going on, and I think it's beautiful. No one else can have it, but we have the most beautiful numbers here on our status chats on Friday. All right, so we're going to go look at our numbers, but before we do, we want to remind everyone to hit the big subscribe button, smash it, hit the notification bell so that whenever I post something, you find out, because they're not always at the same time. To be quite honest, life and business and everything goes away. Have you checked out my coffee? Coffee? Hey, coffee, buy you some coffee. If you don't want to buy a house, buy some coffee. How about that? All right, we're going to look at our numbers for this week. First, we got to look at what was happening in our last status chat, 1/9 of 26. We had up in availabilities and up in the under contracts, 26,618 in the availables, 3,280 in the under contract still showing, and down in the ratio between those two numbers, which means that under contract still showing was a smaller percentage of what was available. So what do you have for us this week, Odell, who gets his numbers from his CallDelToSell website, and of course we have our real data that comes off of our data set from our real estate industry. Of course, you can get it right there. You can see it behind. Of course, have you checked into our United Real Estate networks, because we can refer out to other states, we can refer into Tennessee. But what do we have with our Rio Scout data? 114 of 26 today, 26,568. That's down a little bit from last week, but not much, only about 100 or so. And we have 3,488 was in the under contracts still showing. That's up a little bit. And the ratio returned to 13. So you know what we got to have right now? Other than some beautiful silence? Our in saying our wonderful words. And today I have something from Thomas Sowell, an economist and generally elder scholar, brilliant man. Here he is.